All right. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. Awesome. Time keeps on moving into the future. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a Steve Miller moment. Okay. I could not help myself. All right. So it is the new moon of the month of Tevet, and we're going to have a new moon service here, a Rosh Chodesh service. And so if you're on live stream and you're watching and you've not been with us before, so the way this works is we have a really, really long, I'm kidding. We have a very short service, and then afterwards, I might say something. No. Which will probably be longer than the service. So whatever that might be. All right, so usually words of encouragement and a little bit of smacking at the same time. Mixed together, you know. Smack, encouraging, smack, whatever. All right, so that being said, make sure your phones are turned to silent. Right, turn them down, turn them off. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a Rosh Chodesh service. It's interactive. For those of you on live stream, we're going to be reading off of the screen. And so you can do that as well. And so we're going to participate together. So you at home, you're going to read everything except the one page that you'll see where I announce officially the new moon, which is somewhere about in the middle of this, about 8 or 10 slides in. Like I said, it's not a very long service. You know, we're talking about like 10, 15 minutes at the most. And then we will have some discussion time. So that being said, if you'll all rise, we'll begin with the sounding of the silver trumpet. Amen. Amen. Okay, we're going to all read together. Beginning with Psalm 51 and verse 15. Yahweh sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Yahweh, open my lips that my mouth declare your praise. May the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Yahweh, my rock and my redeemer. From Numbers 10 and verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness and in your appointed times and in the beginnings of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for memorial before your Elohim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Kedushat Levinah, the sanctification of the new moon. O Yahweh, our Elohim, and Elohim of our fathers, make this coming month one of good and blessing. Grant us long life, a life of peace, of good, of blessing, of sustenance, of vigor. A life marked by a reverence for you and a dread of sin. A life free from shame and reproach. A life of prosperity and honor. A life in which love of the living Torah and the fear of Elohim animates us. A life in which our heartfelt desires are fulfilled for good. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Amen. He who performed miracles for our fathers and liberated them from slavery to freedom, may he quickly liberate us and gather our exiles from the four corners of the earth. And let us say, Amen. All right, the new moon of the month of Tevet is today. May it prove to be good and fruitful for all 12 tribes of Israel. May the set-apart one, blessed be he, grant this Rosh Chodesh to us and to all his people, for life and peace, for gladness and joy, for deliverance and consolation, and let us say, Amen. Blessed, praised, glorified, honored, and exalted be the name of the King of Kings, the set-apart one. Blessed be he, who is the first and the last, and beside him there is no Elohim. Extol him in the heavens, Yahweh is his name, rejoice before his face, his name is honored beyond all blessing and praise. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Let the name of Yahweh be blessed forever and ever. Isaiah 66, verses 22 and 23. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from Rosh Chodesh to Rosh Chodesh, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. Amen. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. All right, you may be seated. Grab a sip of water. All right. All right, so it's another Rosh Chodesh, another new moon. So, of course, there's a few things that I want to say that we say every month, which is, first of all, we should be excited in our progress. Hopefully, we're looking back over the last month. We get these markings of time, right? We mark time in terms of years, months, weeks, days, hours, whatever. And so the bigger markings are things like Rosh Chodesh, months, or we have these feasts that are markers of times, or annually, right? And hopefully, we are making full use, taking full advantage of the opportunity to look in both directions, okay? To look where you've come from and get excited about where you're going. And when you look for where you came from, are you looking at it from the point of view, hopefully you're looking at it from the point of view of seeing at least some progress. I know you're seeing a bunch of sideways and a little bit of backwards, but are you seeing some progress? Maybe not progress in completely eliminating some things out of your life, but maybe how you handle them has improved a little bit. Or you're doing them less frequently or whatever it is. Or maybe things that you should be doing, you're doing now more frequently. Maybe not perfectly, but with a little bit more consistency. It's all about the growth and change from what you are into what he is over time. Okay? He doesn't expect you to arrive instantaneously at all this. And so hopefully we're doing that as we mark time. And we should be also excited about the psycho-emotional part of the feeling of this is another opportunity to start again. Okay, every day you get an opportunity to start again. Weekly with Shabbat, it's like a turning of the page. Well, so is every month. So maybe you didn't do so great last month. Well, now you got a chance to do better this month. And so take full advantage. Amen. Always remember that he called you because you can, not because you can't. He called you because you can make it. He called, not that you would, that you can. You get to decide whether you will. You have free will. But he called you because you can. And that's really, really important that we never forget that he didn't call you to fail. You know, one of the things Elder likes to say all the time is, you know, Yahweh can do anything but fail. Well, he also didn't call you to fail. He called you, you know, you may fail, that's your choice, but he called you because you can get there. All right? He didn't call you just to frustrate and tease you like, oh, you can't do it, you know. So please, always remind yourself, he called you at the time he called you because you can. Oh, but then I struggled so much since then. He knew you would struggle so much since then. He knows the end from the beginning. He's not surprised at the struggles you've had since the moment he popped your bubble. Okay? So you still can. And that's really important. So what needs to happen, though, and that's what I want to talk about a little bit tonight, and it really connects with the season we're in or the time we're in, which is called Hanukkah. All right? And I know a few people are having a meltdown already online about me doing anything to do with Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not pagan, so knock it off. If you think it is, then go somewhere else. That's fine. All right? We do not believe that to be the case. That being said, though, it's about rededication. Okay, Hanukkah actually means dedication. So it's the feast of dedication. And so I think that every new moon is a kind of an opportunity like Hanukkah to rededicate yourself. Because remember, the Hanukkah, you know, is birthed out of a rededicating of the temple, the Hanukkah celebration. So that being said, we know that we Scripturally, it says, metaphorically, we are the temple, 1 Corinthians. So then you should certainly be rededicating yourself on a regular basis, and this is one of those annual reminders. And I think also the new moons are reminders, and you should probably listen to the teaching called A Time to Rededicate Yourself. I've had, we do these special teachings, or at least I've already done for almost every holiday that we do, or holy day that we do, right? The celebrations that we do. And I get some feedback around those times, but nothing like lately. Today, the last couple of days since Hanukkah started, we've gotten such tremendous feedback from people who went back and listened to the Hanukkah teachings. So you might want to go back and listen, because it's something you might need to really understand so that you get the best value out. It's not about the celebration, but the meaning you were supposed to get out of it, how it was supposed to affect and change your approach. Not change you, because it's not going to change you unless you change your approach. And it really has to do with the rededication. What else do you have symbolically dealing with Hanukkah? Hanukkah is about light, right? Because you're lighting candles, and each day you light more. So that means the light each day is getting brighter. There's more of it. What a great symbol, an image for us to understand. Listen to the teaching on darkness and light. And so that as you grow, there's less darkness and more light in your walk, in your life, in who you are. So again, this tremendous, symbolism in the things that we are doing here, that if you look at them as just, there was a miracle of oil, so we're lighting candles, then you miss everything. Matter of fact, I've never found any evidence that there's any documentation about the miracle of oil. I'm not mocking it, Probably some grandmother 5 million years ago, I'm not making that up, but a long time ago, telling their child who didn't understand, told a story about the miracle of oil. And look, it may have happened. I'm just saying I don't see it anywhere, right? But it misses the point. If you make it about that, or if you make it about turning it into like Israel Christmas or Jewish Christmas, then you've missed the point. And for all of you out there attacking Hanukkah for those reasons, I kind of get it. But we don't teach that, nor do we do that. We don't give gifts on Hanukkah. It's not about giving gifts. It's about the excitement of cleaning out the temple and rededicating it to function properly with his presence there. Of course, if your temple is all messed up, is his presence really there? Does he want to be dwelling in your temple? Because he says, do you not know that, Paul said anyway, that do you not know that you are the temple of the Holy Spirit? The place where it resides. Well, what kind of house are you providing for that as a temple for the Spirit? And so I do really want to encourage us all that this is a time to really and truly ask ourselves just how dedicated are we? I mean, for yourself, just how dedicated am I? Just ask yourself, how dedicated am I? Am I dedicated enough to do the things that are required? Am I dedicated enough to show up on Shabbat? Am I dedicated enough to show up at feasts? Am I dedicated enough to mark the new moons? Am I dedicated enough to give my boss a hard and full day's work for an honest day's pay? Am I dedicated enough to love my neighbor as myself, to love the Almighty with all you've got? I mean, what level of dedication have you achieved up to this point? And again, that's not to judge anything, but then once you recognize that starting point, remember the little mall map thing I keep pointing out every now and then, the you are here? All I want you to do is assess where you are every month and then decide where you want to be by next month. Because this is a starting point each month. It's an ending point for the previous month, but now it's a starting point for the next part of the journey. And so you need to look at, without emotion necessarily, what you've done and how you've done for the last 30 days or so, and then commit or dedicate yourself to do better in the next 30 days. And look at those areas of, I was going to say areas of performance, because performance is a measurable thing. Okay? By the way, even the things that are not works per se, are you thinking about him every day? That's still performance. It's still a work. Do you study? Do you pray? Do you watch what you eat? Do you read labels in stores? Do you ask restaurants what they put in stuff? Are you treating your neighbor in the right way? Are you acting in a Yeshua-like manner? See, a lot of you watching online, you have a real problem with some of this, I promise you. Because you'll go onto a site like this or onto a stream like this and start having a meltdown in the chat about some of the things we're doing. That is not Yeshua-like behavior. Well, I disagree with what you're doing. Fine, disagree in a Yeshua-like way. Unless you're Yeshua, you don't get to come in here and flip over the tables. Okay? And so since you're not, you don't get to do that. But there's right ways to disagree. There's right ways to handle that you don't agree with something. We do a terrible job with that in so many ways. All right? All right, so there was another topic I really wanted to talk to you about that came up recently for me. So I've an observation that I've made. You guys want to hear that? You guys? All right. Now, I know that Rosh Chodesh is kind of like the monthly group therapy. So here's your little group therapy nugget for today, other than the idea of rededicating yourself. It has come to my attention. Okay, let me backtrack. You know the 3 words I've taught you guys: observe, learn, and adjust? Okay? So observe is about incredibly increasing your awareness of the things around you in general or specifically. Like if you're dealing with your health or you're dealing with your spiritual life or you're dealing with your finances, you may need to increase it specifically. But you do need to also increase your awareness generally. And then, of course, you need to assess what to do with that information. That's the learning process. What do you learn from what you observed? All right? And then what are you going to do with that information? Now that you learned something, what adjustments might you make? And so one of the things that has come to my awareness through observation is that I don't think most of us really understand just how messed up everybody else is. You understand how messed up you are, maybe, okay, if you're honest with yourself. But I don't think we understand how little people really show you what's really going on. They're not being dishonest. They're just trying to protect you from the meltdown they'd have in front of you if it was them to be honest, okay? And so I've come to see through several interactions over the last couple of weeks that as much as I know most of this, and have said it to some degree from the microphone, it really struck me just how much some of the people I interacted with who actually, for whatever reason, did open up a lot more than they had in the past are really a mess. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean like they're absolutely riddled with anxiety, fear, self-loathing, just awful things they say about themselves. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good. I'm a disappointment. Why would anybody love me? Because I'm so terrible to them this way. And I'm an awful son. I'm an awful father. I'm an awful sister. I'm an awful mother. I'm an awful this. I'm an awful that. I'm an awful friend. And I think sometimes we get so easily frustrated with people having no idea just what's going on under the surface. I think people, to quote another song, because we started off with that little thing from Steve Miller, but Billy Joel wrote a song called The Stranger. The stranger being like the mask we present people, but we don't really let them know who we really are. Do you ever let the people see who you really are? Because we put different masks on. And everybody, I'm coming to realize, even the ones that look like a mess in public aren't really showing you the full mess. Okay? We hide so much of it. And I understand why, because it's very scary to let any of it out and how you're going to be handled. How people are going to treat you when you let it out. So I'm not encouraging you to let it out necessarily. Why are you laughing? I'm saying that for your own protection. I'm not saying because we don't want to hear it. I'm saying is because most people aren't able and ready to handle if you let it out. I will encourage you that you need to find somebody you can. Somebody who you can just let it all come spilling out, right? And be vulnerable with and just have your meltdown and cry and just explain all the fears that you're having. Because you can go up to anybody you love or you're close with and keep telling them, I'm here for you. And that may mean nothing because they may not understand why you would be there. Why? Why would you be there for me? Because I love you. Why would you love me? I'm such a terrible whatever. Terrible friend, terrible son, terrible daughter, terrible wife, terrible husband, terrible whatever. And so if you really believe all that, then you can't receive, right? How can you receive? Even if the person wants to encourage you, you can't receive it because you're like not believing it anyway. Like, I don't know why anybody would do that for me. So if you do it for me, then I think there's got to be some other motivation because it doesn't make sense that you would treat me nice or be there for me or whatever it is. We are really, really hurting. At least most of us are. Okay? And those of us that aren't hurting so much have to really, really make an adjustment. Well, let me rephrase that. All of you need to hear this part really, really strongly. When you run into somebody that's acting, believing, feeling in a way that you would never feel, you need to have a whole lot more empathy and sympathy. Because the normal default would be for you to react in a way that, well, I wouldn't feel that way, so I don't know why you do. I don't know why that upsets you. It wouldn't bother me. And trust me, I could say that about almost everything because almost nothing bothers me, and that's just real. Okay, that's not a mask I put out there. Sure, I lose my temper and get frustrated every now and then, but I don't have any of those anxiety, depression, other things. So I don't understand why you do, but I've come to recognize that you do. I've always understood it to whatever level, right? I'm seeing how deep it can go. And I don't understand how some of you actually function with all of that in there because it seems, to watch it from the outside, I can only imagine from the inside, but from the outside it looks pretty brutal and debilitating. And so there's a cure. Not the Christian cure of just believe in Jesus. Because you've all tried that and it didn't work. Yeah, you need to have faith. But that faith has to lead you to changing lots of things, but making changes. There has to be change. Change that leads to different beliefs, different thoughts, different understandings about yourself, about other people. If you're really struggling, and you and I have a close enough relationship, and I say to you, but I love you, what if you can't receive that? And I'm thinking, but I told you, but I promise you can count on me, I'll always be there. But you can't believe that. So that my statement then made no difference. Even when I've demonstrated it, it still won't make any difference. Because it's swimming upstream against an implanted, by you or outside, but that you received an implanted foundational rock of belief about you and other people in relationships. I can't trust anybody. Boom, now you're not going to be able to trust anybody. I'm not worthy of love and this and that. Well, then you can't receive it from anybody. And so if you suffer, and a lot of you are, not making any faces particularly, but if you suffer from this stuff, which most of you do on some level, you need therapy. But I don't mean therapy like professional therapy. I mean, you need to find somebody that you can be real with, and then if they say they're there for you and everything else, you have to give them that opportunity to be there. And not just like basically argue with them, like, why would you love me? And why would you be there for me? Because whatever, right? Because you're my friend. Well, so what? I mean, but that's what friends do. But that's not what my friends in the past have done. It doesn't matter. I'm actually, it's a fight we have to fight. But I want to encourage you on both sides of it. If you're the one trying to give encouragement, just be consistently, patiently putting that out there. And then demonstrate it over and over, even though it might not show any evidence of being received for a long time. But some of you need to be the ones that help to show that other person this is what it could look like if it was done right, if it was done better at least. Look, there's a reason why so many people, have asked me to kind of be like a father figure to them. It's not because I'm so great at everything else. It's because they've had none and I've offered to show them what that looks like. And if you ask them, they'll tell you that they finally are starting to understand what that looks like. Having not seen it, it's hard to know what it's going to look like and trust it. And a lot of the ones who I work with don't even know how to even ask for the things that they should be asking for in terms of interaction because they've never really had it before. They know they need it and want it. They don't know what it looks like. Some people need friends. They know they need it. They don't know what it looks like. Some people need to be loved. They know they need it. They don't know what it looks like. And so we have an effort to be made on both sides. You have to make an effort to find a way to receive, and you also have to make an effort with others to find a way to keep patiently demonstrating and showing. Otherwise, how can the body actually love itself and love each other? It's really hard. Okay, you know what? It kind of goes to, in the model prayer, it says that if you don't forgive others, then he won't forgive you. Well, if you don't love yourself, how could anybody love you? They could try, but it's kind of tough because you're not going to receive. But you've already convinced yourself, well, I know me. I don't know why anybody would love me. I'm this, I'm that. I make terrible decisions, and I'm useless, and I'm selfish, and I'm this. Well, maybe all of that's true. So what? It's just your starting point. As a matter of fact, the worse the starting point, the more upwards you got. So it won't take a whole lot to improve and show some forward movement. You know? It'll be a little tougher when you're almost to whatever the highest level is to see some movement. But in the beginning, when it's all a mess, any movement is easy. Once you can get over that you're useless garbage, which somehow either you or others planted in your head. And it's still your fault to whatever degree because you accepted that implanting. All right? You don't need to receive what's thrown at you by you or anybody. So mostly it's by yourself a lot of the time, right? You know, people say a lot of things about me. My daughter asked me not too long ago, she said, doesn't it bother you when people say all these terrible things? I said, it doesn't because I don't receive it. They said it, and I'm disappointed if people say things. But why would it hurt my feelings? I mean, I don't know the people. They're not in a relationship with me. Why does their opinion have the power to affect me? It only has the power to affect you if you let it. And why would you let it? I've had several of you over the years, not too much lately, but over the years I've had a bunch that would call me up. Somebody said something on the internet to them that they found, that they were just Facebook messaging back and forth. Didn't know each other barely, except that they started Facebook messaging each other. And then the one person just threw them completely off the rails by attacking some decision they made. Back then it was things like they found out that the person had been divorced and now they're remarried. And so they call me up all upset. So why upset? Because somebody that was so-and-so, I said, well, how much do you know this person? I don't. I just know them a little bit on Facebook. So then why does their opinion affect you so much? Well, they said that I'm sinning and I'm this and I'm that. Do they have authority? Why have you given them authority? By the way, that includes yourself. Why do you take authority that's not yours in your own head? Abba says he loves you. He said he loves you so much that he gave his son. He said he loves you and that he popped your bubble to call you and draw you to himself. So then, if he loves you, why can't you love you? Well, I don't like all the things I do. We'll do different things. I mean, those are all easily fixed if you would just look at them the right way, that they're just behaviors, and behaviors can be changed. I'm not saying it's easy to change them, but they are easy enough if you want to do it. I mean, let's be real, right? But I really want to encourage you. I'm going to try to do this myself. I'm very harsh and strong sometimes with people that need to be smacked around, in my opinion, but I sometimes forget that they're just coming from a very, I don't know what it is, but they're coming from a very weak place where they really don't know what to do, or they've dug themselves in such a deep hole they don't know what to do. And, you know, I'm going to try to be more patient. Try. Okay? That doesn't mean you're not going to get a strong hand every now and then, because you need it. All right? But I'm going to try to do it with the thought that I must deal with whatever's going underneath first and recognize and acknowledge, hey, let's talk about how you ended up in this mess and what it's going to take to get you out, okay? Instead of my default to say, when are you going to be ready to stop being stupid? And I have said that to a few people who have spent 8 or 10 years spinning their wall into the abyss, spinning themselves into like a spiral into nothingness because they just make dumb decision after dumb decision. And at some point, you got to be, done with that cycle. And by the way, what's the cure for that? Counsel. I don't just mean like spiritual counsel. I mean, if you're doing something in business, you need business counsel. If you're doing something with health, you need health counsel. If you're doing something, you need to go to somebody that knows what they're doing. I taught a class, I don't know how many years ago, but at one of the Sukkots. Well, it might have been Passover. One of the big events, right? The big, fall and spring feasts. And it was, I think it was talking about finance to some degree, but the main point that I made was that there's a cycle that we need to do, which is we have to first do an assessment, right, which I started off with here, but you need to also go get professional help assessing. Okay? If I want to figure out my health, I might want to go see somebody, get some blood work done, get some tests done, so I have some measurable things to assess where I am. When I teach finances, I said you need to go figure out where every penny has been going and what's coming in. I usually tell people get 3 months' worth of statements from all your banks and your credit cards and everything else, because most people don't spend cash. And then go ahead and make a spreadsheet with all that stuff and see just what you're spending and where it's going. But I have to give people guidance to do that. And then maybe they don't know what to do with that information. They come and sit down with somebody like myself or Elder Billy, people who have training in this, and then we help give them advice. Or like the person I go to for my health, the health practitioner tells me, I think you need to do this and stop doing that and that. And then what you do is you take the plan, you go forward. You know what you do after that? You go get more information, tests again, and you see where you're at. See how that program is going, and then you know what? You go talk to the professional, you reassess, and maybe you make some adjustments. Hey, that's great, we fixed this and this, but that and that still needs more work, so let's go change and do something else. Or add more to the mix, or whatever it is. You understand what I'm saying? In every area of your life. If you're not making good decisions, you need to go get somebody to help you with the decisions. And by the way, that doesn't mean going to somebody who's in the same miserable place as you, which is what you will normally do, because they understand you. Well, that's fine if they've already figured out how to get out. But if they're still in the same place you are, why would you get advice from somebody that's still not where they need to be or not where you want to be? Always try to get advice from somebody who is trained and ideally is where you want to be, because they figured out how to get there. All right? And that's going to really change everything if you would just start to do it. But you know what that means? You have to trust somebody. And you got to humble yourself to admit you are not all that. Even though deep down you know it, but you've never let the public know it. Because you put this little bravado out there in public like you're fine and everything's cool and you're good, you got it all under control. And meanwhile, you're a totally fearful, anxiety-riddled mess who doesn't have the slightest idea what they're doing in so many areas of your life. Not picking on anybody. Own what's you, and if you want to fix it, otherwise enjoy the rest of your miserable life being miserable. I'm not joking. Because I can't imagine it's anything but miserable. I mean, it just really, I talk to people every day, they're miserable. Okay? Elder does too. Every day we talk to people that are miserable. And at some point, you have to make different behaviors, choices, thoughts. You have to change things in a radical way or you're not going to get anywhere. And you have to change it in, you have to be audacious and bold and really go for it. You know, being very timid about making a change isn't going to get you anywhere. All right? You have to go for it. Okay? You know, I can tell you from my sports experience, all right? And I did a lot of racket sports, right? And I can tell you that in racket sports, if you kind of go for a shot, you're going to miss. Now, if you go for it, you still might miss, but if you go for it, you might get it. But if you kind of go for it, you're not going to get it. When that moment comes to take the shot, you have to fully commit and take the shot. So you can't go out there and just timidly take the shot. Because then anybody can just say boo and you run back in your hole. You got to be bold, you know. I used that line from the movie Network. You got to get mad as hell and not take it anymore. That's the way you got to look at your old life. I'm done. I'm done being that person. Okay? I'm done being afraid. I'm done being riddled with anxiety. I'm done being timid. I'm going to go out there and make all kinds of audaciously bold mistakes and learn from them and go out there and do some more. All right? You know, back in the gambling days, we said go large or go home. All right? Which means put it all on the table or don't bother. All right? If you believe in what you're doing, put it out there. Back it up. Let me explain something really important about how life really works. First of all, you make lots of mistakes. You're supposed to learn from them, but you're supposed to keep going and going and going. Now, by the way, the more mistakes you make, the more success you're going to have ultimately, because you should have learned something, and then you make less mistakes in those areas and new mistakes in some other areas. But if you don't do anything, you don't end up anywhere. The only people that have no issues and no problems are 6 feet under. As long as you're above ground, you're going to have issues and problems and challenges. But you should be excited about that. That's how you get somewhere, all right? And you never know how it's going to play out. What I mean by that is, for example, I have done so many different things. And I've had so many different careers and businesses not work or work for a time and then not work. But you know what? I use all of those skill sets to do what I'm doing today. Even though they didn't necessarily get me where I wanted in those individual paths, but the things that I learned in all of them, I use now. And so who knew, right? I didn't know then that I would use some of the things I learned then. And so, I mean, I did some desktop publishing with my father back many years ago, and now every now and then I pull out, you know, either Adobe or Corel, and I design something that we need for the ministry, and I know how to do all that. I mean, there's so many things. You know, we have some issues sometimes with the sound or whatever. Well, I used to run a soundboard and be a DJ, so I know how to do that. I mean, the skill sets that you will develop doing the things that don't necessarily work all the way, you'll still get something that you might need later. So don't always feel like a complete failure when something didn't work right. You're still gonna have something that may be valuable at some point. So many things that I've done that ultimately ended up being something I could use now. It's pretty powerful stuff, you know. As a matter of fact, one of my few good moments with my father looked at me one day after we'd been doing the ministry for a while. He said, you know, he literally said exactly what I just said. He said, I can see where all those things, because he didn't like that I kept changing careers. He didn't like that I was an entrepreneur. He wanted me to just go get a job, do it for 40 years, and retire. He did not see me changing and trying and starting businesses and that kind of thing. He said, but I can see now that everything you did led you to this point, gave you the skills to do what you're doing now, including working in finance, working as a broker, working in real estate. All these things play into what I do now. All of them. So the same thing for you. All the things you do, all the things you try, there's still benefits even if you don't see them. You know, 20/20 hindsight is always the best science. It's the best sight as far as like, oh, now I can see it. But if you know that's coming, right? You know that one day you're going to look back and see it, then you should know now you're developing the things that one day you're going to look back and see it, even if you can't see it now. But if you're not doing anything, there's nothing to look back at. So brush yourself off, stand up, right? Not now, but brush yourself off, stand up, and be determined, I'm going to start putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to do things different. I'm going to do it differently than I'm doing it now. Now, not the things that are working, the things that are not working. Because, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is, as Einstein had said, a sign of insanity. I mean, that's one of the types of insanity there is. But that's the human condition. We do the same thing over and over again, thinking we're going to get a different result. All right? There was something else I wanted to say. Those of you out there that have businesses or careers of any sort, that's pretty much everybody unless you're unemployed, okay? If you've been doing whatever you're doing for more than 5 years and it's not working, get the hint. Really should have figured it out faster than that, okay? I've counseled a few people lately where I've had to say things like that, but it's a lot of you have this problem. Let's go to the mall map again. You are here. Where do you want to be? Okay, so let's talk about career and finance. You want to be able to pay your bills with excess and not be stressed over money. Yes or no? Okay, now that could be bigger or smaller amounts, but you want to have enough coming in to pay your expenses and your bills with excess so you're not stressed. So if the vehicle that takes you from point A to point B, all right, you are here, destination. What gets you there is a vehicle, a job, side hustles, whatever, things that make you money. If the thing you are using as a vehicle does not actually have the ability to get you to the destination, why are you in that vehicle? It's a really good question, isn't it? Look, I was talking to someone earlier today. If you live across the street or 2 blocks away and I want to visit you, I could walk. I could get on a bicycle. I could do whatever. I could even drive a car. Almost any vehicle will work. An airplane is a little too much. But if you were in someplace 5, 6, 8 states away or another country, walking really won't do it. A bicycle wouldn't do it. So I have to pick the right vehicle, okay? So if I want to go from here in Tennessee to New York and visit my mother, a car could work, a plane would be better. Walking and bicycling is completely out of the question. So why are you in the wrong vehicle? Because you're not going to receive that it's not working? Because you're going to be stubborn? Or because you're afraid to try something else? Probably more the fear, probably. We get complacent and comfortable. Same thing with your relationships. Same thing with your health. You guys are very, very either lazy, afraid, or stubborn about changing what you already know doesn't work. You sit there, overweight, diabetes, out of shape, can't breathe, heart problems, but you won't change your diet and your exercise program. Or you won't stop drinking or smoking or whatever it is. You know, but you don't know. Remember I said observe and learn? It's like this, what I said about revelation. If something's revealed to you and you don't receive it, it was a waste of time. It was just information. Most of us, Tony Robbins likes to say this like in his 30-day personal power program. He goes, do any of you know anybody who knows what they're supposed to do or need to do and know how to do it but don't do it and maybe know them intimately, like look in the mirror every morning and see them? That's literally a line off of Tony's program, okay? But yet that's most of us, isn't it? We have some areas in our life that we know that it's no good, it's not working. We know how to fix it, but we're not doing it. And you should be asking the most important question. Why? Why am I not doing it? What is the problem holding me back? What's the motivator? What's the driver? Is it fear keeping you from doing it? Is it laziness? Is it not knowing what to do? Because that may be. Maybe you don't know what to do, so go out and find out what to do. Elder and I tell people all the time who don't know what to do, I say, go figure it out. What do you mean go figure it out? Go figure it out. No, I want you to tell me. No, that skips the important growth phase you need. Go figure it out. Then when you figure it out, you can come back and ask our advice and counsel on what you figured out. You're not 5 anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're not 5 months anymore needing to have a spoon feed, someone feed you right into your mouth. Okay, you're not a baby bird sitting back with your mouth open needing to be fed. You have access to more than anybody in history's had access to with the way the internet is. You can find out anything instantaneously for free, right? Most of the stuff you need is not charged for. It's just there. I'm amazed people have put some things that I've looked for that are fairly obscure on the internet as if they put it there just knowing I'd look for it. Because I can't imagine why anybody posted it, okay? But it's there. I looked for an obscure clip from a TV show to show somebody to see if it was there, and somebody had posted it on YouTube, that obscure clip from a TV show. I was like, somebody posted it, as if they knew I would look for it one day, And yet you guys struggle. The struggle is internal. The struggle is emotional and not physical. The struggle is in your head. You have to win the battle. See, there's an old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. But do you have the will? By the way, where there's a will, there's a way doesn't mean where there's a will that you'll find the way just because there's a will. The will is to find it. The will is to go out there and seek it and get it. Ask, seek, knock. If you have the will, you will find the way. Not if there's a will, there's a way. There's a way. But it takes the willpower to go find it and try it and do it. You can do this. You can do this. You have so much more inside of you than you have any idea. You've barely scratched the surface. How do I know this? Because some of you think, well, you don't know me. How do you know all that? Because you're here. And I believe that you could not be here unless he put you here. And he wouldn't put you here unless he knew you needed to hear what just came out of my mouth. All right? And some of you just found this on the internet. Don't just turn it off. This is what you needed to hear. Unless you don't believe that there's a creator that makes these little connections and divine appointments and all that kind of stuff. Consider just maybe you needed to hear all that. Some of you are like, but this is supposed to be a service, and what was that all about? I told you it was group therapy. Look, and I guess I'll try to close it up with this. Maybe I'll let you guys ask questions. You want to ask some questions? All right. Look, here's the thing, okay? I know that a lot of you want to focus just on scripture and verses and all that stuff. I'm not against that, obviously. But quite frankly, that's not your problem. That is not your problem. Most of you read your book. Most of you listen to the teachings and understand, and most of you make the attempt, the effort to keep the commandments and Torah and covenant as best you can. Your struggle is inside. It's the damage, the weakness, the insecurities, the fears, the internal battle. So yes, Saturdays, Friday nights, you hear the scripture stuff. Rosh Chodesh, I try to kind of spark that light that's going to make all the difference. Because you're not going to do the other stuff and do it with any kind of abundant appropriateness without this part. Because you won't have the ability inside to muster what's necessary to do this. Okay? And by the way, this is the easiest time there is to do it. You've got all kinds of abundance out there. I'm talking about people living in most of the free world, okay? Nobody's bothering you with your Torah observance. Nobody's bothering you about Sabbath keeping or this, that, and the other thing. You can go into most places and find food that's not, just riddled with things you shouldn't eat and whatever, as far as kosher anyway. I mean, it's an easy time to do all of this. What are you going to do when you have the internal struggle, and it's also hard to do because the world starts, I know people that grew up in countries where you had to have your children go to school on Saturday and you had to work on Saturday. My in-laws left where they lived because that was the case, and they had become Sabbath keepers, and the only way they could do that was to escape, and they had to literally sneak out of the country where they were. And I knew others from that country that got arrested for keeping Sabbath and actually spent time in jail for that. It could get a lot worse. As a matter of fact, we know scripturally it's going to get a lot worse. So I would be really starting to build those muscles now when it's easy. Because you're going to need them when it's hard. It's not going to be easy then to build the muscles. You're going to need them already. That inner strength and fortitude and integrity and that desire to do no matter what. The integrity to do no matter what. Okay? Because I know a lot of you say, oh, well, you know, when push comes to shove, really? Most of you are getting shoved all over the place. Because you call us up, and basically that's all you talk about is how you're getting shoved everywhere by everybody. Where's that setting your face like flint and your feet, solidly in the ground, and you're not moving? I'm an immovable object when it comes to that stuff. Some of you are getting knocked around you're being blown about by every wind of teaching, so to speak. But it's not just teaching. You're blown about, and not just scripturally. You're getting blown about by health and by politics and about finance. Whatever teachings that are out there, you're getting blown all over the place. Own your life, make choices, not super fast, but don't wait forever. Recognize, my wife, when she first married me, really was concerned that I was just lazy to some degree because I'd start a job and I would quit pretty quickly. And she didn't understand, as I explained to her, no, I quit because I recognized it was the wrong vehicle. Now, bear in mind, I would quit and get another job like the next day. Okay, I didn't sit around. Some of you guys quit and try to figure out what you want to do for 6 months. Okay? But I would jump vehicles quickly when I recognized the vehicle wasn't going to get me there. And some of you will stay in the same vehicle forever. Then you turn 40 years old, still making $20 an hour like a 20-year-old, and wonder why you can't pay your bills. Because your vehicle was never going to get you there. And then people say, oh, but I'd have to take a couple of years to retool and everything else. Well, what are you going to do a couple of years from now if you don't? So it's inconvenient now. Well, that's your fault. You made some dumb decisions. Own it and move on. But are you going to make more dumb decisions today that are going to affect you 3 or 4 years from now when you could have retooled and been doing better things? I tell the story all the time about my friend's mom. She had to be in her 60s when she decided to go to law school and become an attorney. And you might be thinking, wow, that's, 4 years of law school, whatever it is. And you know what? She did it and she became an attorney. She's been doing that for the last 20-something years, 30 years, okay? So I'm just saying is you're just not thinking with the right perspective sometimes. You're way too stuck in the now, not thinking ahead. Okay? I want you to ask, this is the last thing I'll say. I want you to ask this very important question. If I don't change blank, whatever blank is, where will that take me in that area of my life 5 years from now? Okay? I mean, you're going to be 5 years older. Are you going to be more or less frustrated, upset, or disappointed if you don't change that thing you know you need to change? And then where I need you to find that fire inside to motivate you to go for it. Okay? To be like the fighter who's been knocked down 5 times and you're going to get up anyway. Okay? Everybody should remember Rocky, right? The original one. And every time he got knocked down, they kept telling him, stay down. He kept getting back up. There was no quit. Okay? Some of you don't need to get hit that much to quit. Just seeing the fist coming, you quit. Just knowing it might be coming, you quit. Well, what if a fist came? I better quit. Okay? No quit. You get knocked down, get up. And put in that effort, put in that dedication. All right, if anybody wants to come up, we got a platform up here, and we can also take from the internet. Some people said they might want to come up. Okay, Janet, of course. She's using my group therapy for her clients next week. So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I get great results, Rabbi. So
there you go.
I use all of it. Okay.
I was going to say you owe me a percentage, but you already give me 10%.
Yeah, I do.
It's called tithing. There you go.
Yes. So, Rabbi, you were saying, so do you know somebody who knows what to do and doesn't do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's me. Okay, right. So I definitely have a couple of areas that I've been needing to make changes. And I start, and then I stop, and then I start, I stray away, and then again. So I'm not quitting, but I'm not really staying.
Okay, so
consistently.
what's the first thing you should be asking yourself? What's causing the starting and stopping? So you know what's starting it because you want to fix it, but why do you stop? Okay, I'm not saying you should answer it now, but saying you need to know why you stop. Why do you pause? Maybe it's not quitting because you start again, but why do you pause? Why do you have that interruption in your forward motion? Is it fear? Is it struggle? Is it, what if it doesn't work? I don't know. You have to answer it for yourself. Everybody's got their own thing, whatever it is. Okay? If you ever counsel with me, Janet, you've done this many times, right? If you counsel with me, I always will dig and help you dig under. Okay, that's what's happening, but why? Okay, that's what's happening. Okay, but why is that happening? And what's driving that? Until we finally get to the thing that's really the driver. And it may be 4 layers down. Now, that's where you need someone who's anointed to do that kind of thing, because Elder could tell you when I'm there. Sometimes a person will say something, he thinks we got there, and I'm like, no, there's more. Right? Okay? And so it's just an anointing that I have to know, nope, that's not it. And the person looking at me, of course it's it. No, it's not. Keep going. And I already kind of have an insight that he gives me as to what it's going to be when we finally get there. Okay? And that's why I want to dig, because I've already got an idea, but I need you to find it. So that's why. So when you counsel people, the same thing. Help them understand. And with yourself right now, you just said, yeah, I know certain things I need to do, but I'm not doing it all the time, and I'm not consistent. Why? Figure that out. Dig down and figure out what is causing the disconnect. Okay? Why are you not consistent? Usually it's because of either a negative thought, like a fear, right? Or it's going to be a lack of burning desire. You don't want it bad enough. Okay? Which is why I said you got to get mad as hell that you can't take it anymore. All right? I was talking to a not-so-young man in his 40s who had debilitating anxiety and fears so that he almost couldn't work. I mean, he'd go to work, and sometimes he wouldn't go to work, and I was like, what is wrong with you? And I couldn't get under all of that. And finally I said, what I'm missing from you is you don't have any passion about fixing it. You kind of just accept it, well, I'm all full of anxiety. But I don't see you that upset about it. I don't see you hating that enough to try to figure out a solution. You seem to be okay laying in bed and not showing up at work and losing another job. And so you have to get to the place where that's not acceptable. You don't accept that out of yourself. Yes, you still have the anxiety, but yet you have to have those moments of hating it enough to want to fix it in some way. Whatever it is. Nobody gets anywhere in any significance without having a passionate, they have to have that burning desire for it. You have to want it bad enough. Okay? Look at anybody that's accomplished anything major, any area you're struggling, is because they wanted it more than you. If you haven't gotten there, it's because you don't really want it bad enough. You like the idea of it. I'm not saying you don't want it at all. How many of you, don't raise your hand, could use a weight loss of at least 20 to 40 pounds? And you've known that for at least 10 years. So why hasn't it happened? You want it. You want to lose 10 or 20 pounds, 30 pounds, but you haven't. Well, maybe you lost some, you gained it back, and lost some, and gained it back. I've done that plenty. So what is holding you back? You're comfortable enough with what you have, even though you really like the idea of doing it. Do you understand? You like the idea that you know you should lose the weight because you'd be healthy or whatever it is. You like the idea, but you don't want it bad enough. That's the end of it. Okay? Rabbi Tom lost like 150 pounds or something like that because his health was so bad he was going to die. He wanted it bad enough. And he quit smoking and all the things that he needed to do. And that's why he's around now. He would not be here today if he hadn't done that. I really believe that. Okay? Yeah. All right? Because when I met him, he was twice the size he is now and smoking. And did not look like he was going to last very long. But he realized he had to make a decision. And by the way, what's a decision? The actual word decision has the idea of cutting off all other possibilities. Because when people say to me, well, I tried to quit whatever, or I tried to lose weight, that's why you failed. You tried. Don't try. I want to be like, Yoda. There is no try, just do, Okay? Don't try. Do it. Well, I tried to quit smoking. I tried to eat different. Trying simply means you're not ready to do it yet. You just do it. You make a decision. Most people, by the way, just use smoking as an example. Most people I know that quit smoking, you know how they quit? They quit. They didn't do patches and wean themselves off. They quit. They made a decision. I mean, I never smoked, but I talked to a lot of people, and mostly, almost like 99%, they quit by quitting. They just said, I'm done. And once their emotions were committed to that, it wasn't that hard. I didn't say it was easy, but it wasn't that hard because they had made a decision. All right? Next.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I got it. I think I got it. Because I have seen success in other areas because I really wanted it. Mm-hmm. So that's, I got it. So I will make the decision. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, so when you tell me, not you, Janet, but when people tell me that they want to fix their finances, look, first of all, if you're like 2 months back on your rent and everything else, I don't want to even hear it if you're not working 16 hours a day. Why would you not be, especially today when all you got to do is drive? You can do Uber, DoorDash, anything, Grubhub. Anytime, 24 hours, you can get out there and be available. But you want help from me, but what are you doing? Well, I just started driving a few hours a day, or I just started doing this or that. Why don't you have a night job and a day job and 6 other jobs? What are you doing? Where is the urgency? Where's the urgency? I don't understand. You call me because it's urgent enough to finally call me. And when you call me, I want to know, what have you been doing urgently? Okay? We used to have the corner in the back here by the live stream desk. That's where Elder would counsel a little bit, and I'd come in and counsel. We ended up calling it the crying corner because people would come in and they would just not own their stuff, and I would blast them a little bit every now and then. And it started with this one lady who had not been working. This is now like November. She hadn't been working. I said, when was the last time you worked? March. She was a single mom with a kid. And I said, what have you been doing since March? Nothing. What? And I blasted what out of her. Why? You think, that's so mean. Mean? You come to me all whining about how broke you are and you've done nothing? And by the way, some of you men especially, so you had a great job, whatever you think a great job is, 60,000, 40,000, whatever it was, and now you lost your job, but you can't find exactly the same job or better, so you're going to do nothing. I watch that all the time. The ladies do this too. Men, it's worse. And then you come and counsel. I'm like, when was the last? I haven't had a job in 2 years. You haven't had what? What do you mean you haven't had a job in 2 years? Well, I can't find work doing what I do that pays what I pay. So do something else until you find that. Oh my gosh. And then people wonder, why are you so strong? Because I can't understand. I feel like there needs to be like an electric prod or fire I can just put or something to get you motivated to fix your own stuff. There's no sense of urgency. How do you not have 3 jobs and are 2 or 3 months behind on your bills? About to get thrown out? I don't know. I get this on a regular basis from people. Especially you men, that your wives are working, they could barely make enough to pay anything because of whatever reason they weren't working before and now they're not. I'm not saying ladies can't make a lot of money, they certainly can, but I'm saying, but a lot of times that's what happens. And then the guy is not working because he can't find the ideal perfect job that's exactly what he wants. So what? Stop it. Get over that. I've done a lot of really awful jobs. Awful meaning they were not very fun to do, didn't pay very well, but they were necessary. Okay? Because, see, as an entrepreneur, I understood that if I tried something and it didn't work, I had to go get a job, regroup, make more money so I could try something else. So I've had lots of jobs in between lots of businesses. And I did anything that paid enough money to pay some bills, which meant sometimes it was things that didn't pay very well, but I did lots of them. It didn't matter. You had to work. Okay? But see, ego and pride. Oh, I'll never work in a fast food place. Good. Stand there and bear the shame of being unemployed and stubborn. Because your pride won't let you go get a job for $15 an hour at McDonald's. How does your pride come in when you're not able to pay your bills? That's not enough shame? An embarrassment? Because you're too stubborn to go get a job? I don't get it. Okay, Michael?
I used to have a big problem with self-love. I think a lot of men probably experience that and just maybe don't talk about it. But like it was really, really bad to the point where it was disabling. Like I would tell myself, I'm just not good enough to do that. I'm not good enough for that job. I'm not good enough for anything. And I've gotten to the point in life where I'm able to work on that now, finally, after like 3 years of being here and receiving lots and lots of counseling from you. But I think that a lot of people who experience that issue, they just need a victory somewhere, which may not be very difficult if they're overwhelmingly red personalities, because red personalities naturally gravitate towards victories. The other colors don't always gravitate towards victories. Like the highlight of my day today wasn't what I did for my new career that I'm starting. The highlight of my day today was coming home, making latkes for the first time ever, and then playing dreidel with my kids.
Awesome. But also, you did do things for your career, and you were doing other things, so you weren't just cooking and playing with your kids, right? You did the things that were part of your job and part of your career.
Yeah, and so I got my business victory in the morning, and then my personal victories in the afternoon, which was great.
So you passed?
I did.
Awesome.
And but as somebody who's not where they should be with that yet, but making progress, that's just what I see looking back to where I started. Was when I started, 2.5, 3 years ago, I needed a victory somewhere and couldn't find where I was worthy to take a victory. What would you say to somebody who's on the way? Like, how can I tweak this, I guess, is what I'm asking, to make it more effective, faster, or better?
Set the bar a lot lower. Like, if you need to work, then don't necessarily feel like you have to go out there and get the really challenging, overly super qualified type of thing. Just get something so you get a paycheck. That's a victory. Okay, just do something. But let me just tell you, from a red personality, and since that's all I've really got, so that I think I could be a fairly good spokesperson for that. I thought about it before you were talking, whether I was going to say it this way. Most of the things I've done in my life, I knew almost nothing about till I did them. I was not qualified. I remember when I met somebody, this is in the 80s when DJing was like a big deal, to do parties and stuff and all that kind of thing. And I met a guy that was a DJ at a place I was working, and he told me what kind of money I could make. So I ran out, bought the equipment, bought a bunch of stuff. He taught me just a little bit of things. The next thing you know, I was booking myself for parties, and I had no idea really what I was doing. But I figured it out. I've done so many types of businesses. I knew nothing what I was doing, but I started it. So start it, you'll figure it out. Okay? You don't need to know everything and have it all figured out before you get started, necessarily. Now, some of those things I didn't work, and that's fine, but I wasn't afraid to start without having it all lined up perfectly ready to go. Okay? That's just something that you need to know. And, and back in 1981 when I started DJing, I was making $150 an hour in 1981. So I do a 4-hour party, make $600 a week. Some of you don't make that now. okay? And I was doing that 1 day a week, 4 hours, okay? And then I would work twice in the week. I might do a Friday, this is without Sabbath keeping, but I was Friday night and Saturday night. I mean, I could make $1,200 in a week in 1981. That was a lot of money, okay? That's back when cars were like $12,000, okay? Brand new. All right, it was not like, they are now, $50,000 for a new car. All right, so I'm just saying, I knew nothing. I wasn't even a kid that owned a lot of, I didn't own any records. Oh, this is when we spun vinyl, okay? Okay? Which is back, so I guess people know about vinyl again. But I didn't even own any. I was not a person that was really listening to a lot of music. I didn't know what music to buy for party. I didn't know anything. I had to figure all that out. What do people listen to? What do they dance to? I didn't know anything. All I listened to was the radio, okay? And I went and spent money on turntables and speakers and all those. I bought hundreds of records, some of which in the first round of buying where I ended up being the wrong ones that weren't going to be of any use anyway, because I didn't know. So don't feel like you have to have all your ducks in a row perfectly to start, okay? I mean, don't go with ready, aim, fire. How about just fire, ready, aim? I don't know. Just go, start, fire, okay? In some ways, do that. I don't mean like completely with callous disregard to everything, but ready, fire, aim. How's that? You get ready, you fire, and then you realize you learned something, and now you aim. So you fire again a little better than the first time, okay? I've heard a lot of entrepreneur teachers out there talk about it, ready, fire, aim. Because ready, aim, fire, you get stuck in aim and in ready, and you never fire, okay? You got to pull the trigger. You got to make a decision. You got to take some action. All right, go ahead.
So, I had the awesome victory this morning, and I was pleased with that. But I think I was probably happier to be building that relationship with my kids, because I spend so much time doing things that aren't that, which is ridiculous, because they're the ones who are going to be there for me when I'm at the end of my road. And these tasks that I spend chasing down all day, building this thing, putting that together, cleaning this mess up, those aren't going to be there for me when I'm that old, but my kids are. And so building those relationships was really important to me. And I think my next step for growth, of course, I'm going to continue doing the professional stuff and the business building stuff and stuff like that, but I need to pursue my relationships more strongly as well. Amen.
But again, it's very hard to have good relationships and spend that time with quality if you're struggling financially. I mean, it's a terrible distraction to the other parts of it,
Amen.
See, right now, my finances are about as good as they've ever been, and because of that, I get to spend as much time as I want with family members when I want to. And I still work probably more hours than I've ever worked, to whatever degree. But, if one of my family members, my son, my daughter, my wife wants to spend time, I just block it out and go spend the time. But I have that freedom because I got the financial part handled, okay? There were lots of times in my life where I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't do that, I need to work now. And so those things did not get to happen because I had to prioritize, okay, and fix the distraction of the financial need. It has to be handled. But if you have it handled, then you could do the other things with a lot more freedom. All right, Rocky.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
I've stood up here many a times and asked people, do you know why you're here? And I've always said, I know why I'm here, because I'm not all there. And there's no doubt about it. And I've been real. I haven't been artificial in any way. I've stood up here and weep like a baby. I've been so excited I could hardly even manage myself. I think about what we're in. If you really realize what this really is, oh my, it would make you shake. I believe without a doubt this is the absolute truth. I know there's other places out there, there's other messianics, but there's just partial truths. This is the absolute truth. And I don't care what anybody says, and no one's going to tell me any different. I've changed so much just in the little short time I've been here. I've been here and I've been weeping. I've wept all day in this place in a panic attack, but I've managed. I've got through. And I've counseled with you, and you would tell me to get angry, and I'd leave like, what? Get angry about it? And I'm like, he doesn't know. He doesn't know all the substances I've been on, how delusional I've been. He doesn't know what I've been through, but well, it works. I've been getting angry, And then I listened to what you said. You said, whatever your problem is, you learn everything you can. And I've watched so many people, some of them I watch about anxiety, and they're dumb. Others are like, oh, that's a nice little tidbit. I'll use that.
Right.
And other people, and another is like, oh, I'll use that.
Become an expert at your problem.
Correct. I know it's a thinking problem. I've been so traumatized being here. I mean, I'm constantly looking out. That's why I sit in the back. That's why I'm always looking at the doors. I'm constantly looking out. Something's going to happen. I don't know why. I get myself full worked out. I could cry now. I don't know how to describe it. My whole insides are like shaking. Like, oh my goodness. I used to love to work like that. That's why I was an iron worker. I used to love to go to work thinking I might go home in a body bag. I was really into that stuff. But not now. I want to live.
Amen.
Thank you. I said at the feast that you saved my life, but you actually showed me how to live.
Amen.
That's it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look, some people probably think that we're off on some of this stuff because we focus so much on how to live beyond just, Torah observance. But I think we need to deal with the whole person. Okay? And you're not going to get that in most places. I think that's one of the things that makes us different. First of all, we're way more accessible than any place I'm aware of. And then we deal with stuff that most places would never deal with. Elder tells me all the time after his experience in some of the churches he was with, he says, nobody does this. Okay? All right, Rick?
That's right, nobody does this. How do you follow Rocky? We love you, Rocky. This is the ultimate reality here. Ultimate reality, not show, but it's the real deal. You can correct me or expand on this a little bit, but for there to be an authority, you were talking authority, there has to be an author. And so I went to Hebrews 12, 1 and 2, which you know what that is, the author and perfecter of our belief. Messiah Yeshua is. The King Jimmy has it, finisher of our faith. That doesn't sound very good, but perfecter of our faith. But it talks about running with endurance the race set before us. So if there's an author, our Creator, and we're created in His image, we're created to create. So if we don't have what we desire in our existence, we need to create it, which is what you did a lot in the different jobs. I've done that a lot too, but it's you go find what you need to change your life. You figure it out. So
Amen.
I just thought this Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 just fit perfectly what you were, despised the shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim. He endured the stake. It's endured till you receive the crown.
So basically what's happening in that chapter is it's saying that he's not just the author, but he is what comes at the end of doing that.
Right.
So that's what it means by the finisher. If you finish, you end up like he ended up. Because it says he suffered the stake and all these things, but then he ended up at the right hand, right? So he's saying this is to help motivate you. That he's the author. Happened. There we go. I blame Harold for that. Okay, so he's the author, which means he's the Word. He's the one who spoke. He's the one who gave us the information, but he's also showing us what the end result is as part of the finisher. So when we're told that, he said that he's the end of the law, the end result of Torah keeping is him. Not he ended anything, but if you do, this is what you end up being. You become Yeshua-like, right? So what you heard me over the years, I've said that Torah does three things, and I said, blesses you, keeps you safe, but the third thing is it's the vehicle that transforms you into him. Okay, so that fits in perfectly with Hebrews. All right. Anybody else? Live stream? Oh, wait, Macy wants to get up.
Hi, Papa. What if you have an anger problem and you don't know how to distinguish between getting angry or mad enough to deal with a certain issue? What do you do in that instance?
All right, so when I tell you to get angry, I mean, some people do have anger problems, and I do have certain times when I probably get more upset with something than I should, but I'm talking about having a directed, high level of emotional, I'm not doing this anymore. This has to end, okay? That takes a certain level of emotion and commitment to have to get there. You know, I often talk about the Scarlett O'Hara moment, right? Where she goes, as God is my witness, my family will never go hungry again. She's hit that wall. She's not screaming angry, but she said, it's over. This is not going to be ever again. That's where you need to get to. So I may use the idea of burning, having a fire lit or getting angry, but you have to get to the point where there's enough passion to say, this is not acceptable. It has to change, and I have to change it. Okay? So if you're not being angry in that way, then your anger needs to be dealt with. I mean, we can definitely have anger issues and be angry at all the wrong things. It's a matter of what it's directed at. If it's directed at a behavioral modification problem in you, that's good. If you're directing it at somebody else, that's not good. Okay? Directing it at your keyboard is always okay. If your password isn't working. Okay? You can throw that around the room or whatever you want to do. All right? Okay, so, but understand, it's what it's being directed at, okay? Don't direct it at yourself, okay? Direct it at, because then you're just beating yourself up. Direct it at, I'm not going to be this me anymore, okay? So I use the word anger, maybe that's not the right word. It has to be that strength of passionate, I have had enough, this has got to change, all right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay? And that's what I was talking about, that one guy who was telling me how he had anxiety and he couldn't wake up in the morning even to go to work sometimes. I was just like, when are you going to? He's like, you don't understand. I was like, no, I don't understand. I don't understand why you're not upset about this. Why you just accept this. When you're in those moments when you're not rolled up in a ball sucking your thumb, why are you not upset enough to try to find a solution? Why do you seem to be okay? You know, you can't even hold a part-time job and you're 43 years old or whatever he was. I mean, a part-time, not even 20-hour-a-week job, and you still don't show up because you just can't get out of bed. Right. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand that people have issues. I don't understand why that doesn't bother you at all. Enough to, as Rocky said, to own your problem, you should become an expert on the problem, what causes it, how to handle it, what to do about it, find those little nuggets, research everything you can so you are, when it comes to whatever you struggle with, you know everything about it. Whether it's anxiety, depression, anger, I don't care what it is. Eating, diabetes, you have a health issue, you need to know everything you can, be an expert in your problem. Okay? And that's where the solutions will kind of birth out of as you gather all that information. Okay? I know so much about personal development because I knew that was my problem starting even as a teenager, and I started studying it. I wanted to know why I struggled to do certain things and why I didn't struggle with other things, and I wanted to understand what makes us do what we do and what makes us not do what we should do and all those kind of things, or why we don't do things. What was driving all that? And I studied a lot of stuff, okay? If you take the Level Up class, I gave you a book list of like 40 books. And that's only at scratching the surface of what the list could have looked like. I wanted to keep it on one page, okay? But that's the key. You have to become an expert in your problem. All right, Tom.
Since I come up here, I'm a little nervous because I'm going to ask permission, Rabbi, to vent just a little bit since it's not a Shabbat or a Torah study.
Sure.
And it's nothing too far out there. This Hanukkah is me and my wife's year in this walk, in being a remnant or set apart. And since my wife was born here, and I've been here all of my adult life. And coming out of the prominent Church of God here, my dad was an ordained bishop, graduated from Lee College, and I know hundreds of people in this town. And I probably weekly get accused of being, and this is something you've told me when I met you the first time, get accused of joining a cult. You're in a cult. You're in a cult. You're in a cult. And my typical response
said the person in a cult.
Yeah, you've joined a cult. You know that. And so, and I don't argue with them. I generally say, and this is my standard response, yeah, we didn't drink the Kool-Aid this week, maybe next week. So, and I leave it at that. But it's just, I don't know why they say that. One, they don't understand, or they don't like, I don't know. But, because like you say, we're stepping on their toes. But this last week, we go up here to the Mennonites. A lot of people do business with them, go up there and buy and I'm pretty sure they're not going to hear or see what I'm getting ready to say. So I feel pretty sure that I can pick on them because they don't use electricity. But we go up there and we buy a lot of their milk or cheese or whatever we buy. But I was standing in their compound and I was talking to a few guys. I know them. We don't live too far from them. But their practices, if you look at how they live, they're completely set against society. And I was looking at their women, and they fit to a T the definition of a cult. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know what we have no idea what we don't know anything about them, but yet everybody in this area says, oh, look how wholesome they are. Look, and they are. I mean, I know they're leading good lives, and I'm not picking on them.
Right.
But everybody around here holds them to a high standard. Look how good, you don't understand what I'm saying.
I do.
But they fit the textbook standard of them being a cult, but yet nobody calls them out for being a cult, but I get accused of coming here to Beth Shalom, and we're in a cult.
Right.
And I've been here just a year. Some of you guys have been here far longer than me, and that's just a part of being a part of this congregation. And since we've not been here quite a year, and that's one of the things that, I guess that's part of the heat you have to be when you come here. Yep. And so that's one of the things I want to vent. And I realized that this week, and I'm like, it's almost ridiculous.
All right. So the actual definition, because I think cult needs to be defined in two different ways. So the actual, and this is authoritative, came from Google. The god of the internet. Okay. So cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. We devote ourselves towards God. So that would make us a cult. So would all the religions be. See, so the point is there are things that we would call good cults and bad. So the second definition is where we get the more of the challenge, which is why we get attacked. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. In other words, they don't understand us or we're a cult in a negative way. Okay? And then, of course, the third one, which is what we see often on TV, is a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing where they're worshiping an object or a person, human being, like a cult leader, like you may have seen, which is where you get the Kool-Aid and all that stuff. Which, by the way, I have I do have a coffee mug that says "Drink Up" and has his picture on it. So somebody thought that was funny to mail me one day. Which, by the way, which is why we do not serve Kool-Aid at any of our events. You laugh. I actually had to make that decision when we first kept feasts because people thought, well, it's this is back in the late '90s, and so people drank Kool-Aid, I guess, more than that. But we had these big things of lemonade or whatever, somebody said, what about Kool-Aid? I said, we are not serving Kool-Aid. Okay? So I believe it or not, I actually made a decision to do that. Okay? But as we have sort of looked at the idea of a cult, all right, the negative functioning idea of a cult, because all religions are cults from the positive sort of just actual definition, right? We have a devotion and veneration of a being, of something. The negative connotation comes in when people say, well, you guys are a cult. The definition they're trying to use as some sort of negative thing, I said, well, what makes a cult a negative thing? Well, let's see. They're worshiping a person, human being. None of that's happening here. And this is the most important thing. You can ask Rabbi Tom. He'll tell you all about being in a cult. They insert themselves into all of your personal life business to control everything you do. We do none of that here. Okay? I mean, if you're in a true cult, they'll come to your house, they'll look at your stuff, they'll go through your stuff, they'll want to know where you are every time you don't show up anywhere, everything else. I mean, they want to control and insert themselves in everything you do. You guys get mad at me because I won't insert myself in some of the things you do. I mean, we're so much the opposite of that. Okay? But yet, they want to call us a cult. Okay? The freedom of entry and exit is also a sign of a negative cult. So when you tried to leave the church, or when you did, they threw a bunch of stuff at you and accused you of everything under the sun. That's a cultic behavior. Okay? If you left here, I know a lot of people say, well, you guys pick up people left here. No, I say to you, if you're going to leave here, there's a right way to do it. How about doing it without attacking us? I don't attack them. I say don't attack us. I also say, how about talking to us before you leave? And letting us know why you're leaving, or just say anything, even say goodbye. Okay, so we don't attack the people that leave. We've never attacked them. They say we do, but we don't. Because they're attacking us, and they don't like when I put it out here on the microphone and say, this is, unbelievable, the stuff that people are doing to attack us just because they got their little baby feelings hurt in whatever way. All right? And I'm not saying that to mock them. I'm saying when you act that way, it's because you are allowing yourself to have what we would call baby feelings. It's very babyish stuff to react the way. That's a childish way to behave. All right? So I appreciate, Tom, that you brought that up, Mr. Bowles. But, Yeshua did say, your choice to follow me may cause you to be at odds with your closest people. Mother, father, sister, brother, etc. It says that kind of stuff. You may be at odds with because of how you choose to follow him, right? And that's clearly happening in your lives. And that's one of those verses that I feel really helps to validate the New Testament, is that he said it and it happened. And it's something that you don't necessarily have logical reason for it to happen, but it happens. And it happens because people have an emotional reaction, mostly, Tom, because your beliefs in their mind present a threat. And the reason they believe that is because underneath all that, even if it's not conscious, they realize that if you're right, by definition, that means they're wrong. And nobody wants to be wrong. It also means that if you're right and they're wrong, that to be right, they must change. And nobody wants to change. And therefore, they only have a choice to lash out. Okay? And the sort of go-to thing is to call it a cult. Okay? Because that's one of those few things that most people, when they hear it, start running away from. And so that's their way to keep people away from us, is they want to call it a cult. And so you just smile at them when they call it a cult and ask them, by what definition are you saying it's a cult? What about it makes it a cult? Well, you guys believe that, well, okay, we believe different than you. That makes us a denomination or something. It doesn't make us a cult. What makes us a cult? All right? I mean, call them out. Well, you guys are in a cult. Really? What about what I'm doing makes it a cult? Don't argue and say we're not. Ask them what makes it a cult, because they're just throwing out a line just to zing you. They haven't thought it through. They don't have a reason, except for the second definition. You're doing stuff that's strange. I think it's strange that you keep the law. So you're a cult. All right. We believe different than you. So that means that all other denominations and whatever your denomination is are cults. Well, maybe some of the Baptists believe that about others, but there are those that believe that all the other Christian denominations other than theirs are cults. That's fine. But I'm just saying I would ask them that question. All right, Kathy.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
Haksamak. I guess, or happy Rosh Chodesh. You were gone in Houston, and I asked Elder Billy, and I've been struggling this week, and other sisters are struggling with the season we're in. And every year, I ask you different questions, and because I work with seniors, and right now, currently, I'm working with a severely, praise Abba, I've got a job where I'm not lifting, but she's severe Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'm in an assisted living, and there's gotta be 25 Christmas trees there. Okay, I can deal with that, okay, I'm not voting. And I've been using the Madagascar penguin. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
There you go.
Okay. That is only getting me so far. So one sister has told me, well, I wouldn't go into a room where that was going on. Okay. My job that I've agreed to be employed at is to sit next to this lady and be there as a support, which the moment I'm not. Where are you?
Wait, hold on. First, let me interrupt and say,
I chose
what someone else says they would or would not do doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you.
True.
You may agree with them, you may not, but who cares what they may or may not do? You have to make your choice, and you have your reasons.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to defer to you, sir. Thank you.
Look, there are things that I would not do. That doesn't mean that they're wrong for you to do them or tolerate them up to a point. There's responses that I would make that may be a little bit more abrupt than somebody else might make. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so it really depends on who you are, and you should just get counsel, which you're doing now to some degree, so that would be the way to go. But that's, again, where you may share this with some of your friends, like you said, a sister that you talk to, and say, well, look, I understand that's not what you would do, but that's, it's not so simple for me, and I'm not you. But I will get counsel about it, because if it's black and white, then maybe your friend was right, and maybe it's not black and white, and maybe there's a way to look at it. Look, here's the thing. If I were to go to, another country that was very much, immersed culturally in a unique culture, which is not much of the world today. A lot of the world is very eclectically everything. But you can go to some places where you go and it's very whatever that is. I would expect to see that culture everywhere. I wouldn't expect to go there and see it look like America. I'd expect it to look like whatever that culture is. So we are in a very Christianized, focused time of year in this country. Every news, every TV, everything is going to be Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. Defending it, pushing it, whatever they're going to do. And so I can't get away from it. Now, that being said, though, I may have, and you may have, different tolerance levels for how much you will be kind of made to be immersed around it. Not participating in it, but immersed around it. So I may recognize my own tolerance level and say, you know what, I need to find a different job. Or I may just realize this is only another couple of weeks, it'll be over.
13 days.
And so, it's just one of those things. Some of you could not work in a restaurant that served unclean foods. Others would have no problem dealing with that as long as you're not eating it yourself, right? So it's different tolerances doesn't mean it's a black and white right and wrong thing. Okay? And so since your job is to be with someone during that time, and so you're surrounded by it, it is what it is. Look, I hadn't thought about it before I went on this last cruise I went on, but it was Halloween on the day we left. Because I just didn't think about it was October 31st. And, I don't participate and haven't for most of my life, so I don't really think about it. So then it was everywhere on the boat for that one night, and it was hard to get away from and all that kind of stuff, but it was what it was. I didn't participate. I didn't put on anything and whatever. I just didn't participate. So So it's okay to not feel the same. All of you, whoever gave her the advice and everything, it's okay that you wouldn't do it. There's lots of things I wouldn't do. That doesn't mean that it's not doable or allowable. It's just everybody's tolerance levels can be very different. What nobody should be doing is participating in the celebration. Okay?
Okay. So, thank you for that, Rabbi.
Good.
And, but the question is, so I've gone to all these things because my job is to get her out of the room and participating in life. That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing that, and I've endured through a lot the last 2 weeks. Okay, so now the POA, the lady who hired my company, and I agreed to take this woman on for 3 weeks now, has asked me, she has left a little Christmas tree there. And she brought some of her ornaments, and she wants me to assist this 104-year-old woman to put these on that little tree. So my question is, okay, I'm there, I'm not participating, I loathe the phallic symbols and everything in Scripture and the whole deal. But I've been hired, this is her life,
Yeah.
her walk,
Yep.
her belief,
Yep.
and so if I hand that to her and she decides to drape this tree with the silver balls and stuff.
You're doing your job. That's fine. Again, tolerance levels are what's at issue. If you can handle it, then that's fine. Okay? Again, I'm not talking, look, some of you end up in retail and you end up having to set up displays, and you hate that. All right, so then get a different job or just don't work retail during the wintertime. Unfortunately, it's like a 3-month period that they do this, okay? It's like Christmas starts in August now. All right, so just bear in mind, or actually they got so obsessed now with Halloween, they wait at least and do Halloween first, but you don't want to do that either.
Right.
So that's when you start thinking about either different careers or just recognizing, look, it is what it is. It's not me participating. I'm employed as a hireling to do this thing, and it's, and I'm okay with that.
I appreciate that. So my only concern was, okay, if I'm participating, like some of the Christmas songs, like O Come, Emmanuel, which Elder helped me with, and other people have helped me with, and I've had no problem with it. I just don't want to bring shame and disrespect on the Father by putting my hand. So I'm always asking myself, standing, am I putting a stamp of approval on this by doing this?
No.
Okay.
Look, okay, so I'm not singing songs, I'm not doing carols, but if they asked me, if I was in your shoes, if they asked me for her, okay, to go ahead and decorate her room, no.
Yeah, I do.
Okay? But if you're helping her to hand her something she wants to hang because this is her thing, but she has some physical challenges, that's her doing it, not you. Okay?
Thank you.
And so I'm not going to impose my beliefs on her and mess with that. But I'm not going to go ahead and decorate the room for her and do these things. I said, if you want that done, somebody else has to do that. Okay?
And so
my job is to assist her in the things she's trying to do and help her to do those things, and that's the limit of it.
And I remember I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in her, everybody's doing it. It grieves me. Every time it grieves me to see everything. But that's where they're at.
It is, look, it's where they're at. Look, I walked into the bank today, and it's completely been turned into that. Okay? And I had to walk past all that stuff to walk up and do what I had to do with the teller and everything. I was just like, oh my gosh. But it is what it is, and thankfully it doesn't last forever. I've got, some guys in my neighborhood that want to compete with those guys from the movies, like Chevy Chase and them. I mean, they literally have their houses like with thousands and thousands of dollars. But you can see it from outer space and the whole thing. Sleighs and the whole 9 yards and all that. I mean, I have to drive by this every day. It is what it is. You're not in his world right now. Remember, listen to the teaching, peace in the world, not his. This is not, he's allowed this to not be, his place at the moment, so we could see the difference, right? So the main thing is to not participate, okay? So that means that no matter how funny and entertaining, you're not watching Christmas movies or Hallmark Christmas movies, which, like, there's thousands of them if you ladies like that stuff, all right? You're just not, just don't immerse yourself in that stuff, okay? You know, you walk into restaurants and places, they're all doing it. You can't get away from it. Just minimize your participation and exposure to it in the ways you can control.
Okay, so I'm working with her on Christmas Day, and that's one of the things she might do is a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Well, if she's watching, that's fine. You're not choosing to do these things yourself.
Oh, no.
So if your job is to sit with her no matter what she's watching or doing, that's your job. Okay? No, I'm just saying is you don't choose to basically say, oh, but I like this story, so it's okay. No, that's you choosing to do something. But if you're working, she could be watching anything you don't like, and that'd be, you know.
And I just thank you, Rabbi, because this is Rosh Chodesh and weighing how we've progressed. So several years ago, I was delivering poinsettias, and I said, don't do that again. Don't allow that. Don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that, you know, I'm not watching the movies that I was hooked into, like the Jimmy Stewart one, whatever it was, Frederick Kaplan's one.
It could be worse. She could be watching MSNBC.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
That would be even more torturous. I couldn't resist that, sorry. All right, Rocky.
Thank you, Rabbi. Kathy brought something up that I've been struggling with, too. In the heart of the matter, I hate to even mention it. But I'm not sure exactly which part it was because there's so many of them. But you basically said that you have to overcome your emotions with intellect and reason. That's the reason I did the things that I did. Everything that I was involved in, I was emotionally connected. Christmas, Easter, even things that were wrong. You know, I'd emotionally talk myself in and reason myself that emotionally I can do this. You know, he'll understand. And it's the same thing with the season. I mean, I have thoughts, and my thoughts are so vivid I can see it happen. And I think about those things in Christmas, and everybody was supposed to be nicer, and people were, you know, more reasonably. I used to say, you know, why can't you act like this all the time, Dad? You know, why is it just one day? You know, of course, I don't think of the times that you drop clip the freezer or your, refrigerator or stuff like that, but because there was those horrible times. But those times that were so emotionally like, oh, you know, I want that. But this reason is like, but that's wrong. How can I feel that way? It's wrong. You know, it's not. That wasn't even real. It wasn't. You know, I was worshiping the golden calf. You know, sort of. Am I making any sense?
Yes, but you know, if you think about how you feel during a whole week of Sukkot, if you think about how you feel during the whole week of Passover, if you think about how you feel on any of the feast days, and you compare it to what you thought you felt during that one day back as a child and during the Christmas thing, there's no comparison.
No, there isn't. And the emotions are
it's
different.
not phony.
Right.
Okay? It's not phony. And actually, most of the people, I would guess, that you interact with at the feasts, when you interact with them away from the feast, still act the same most of the time. It wasn't a one-day thing.
So in time, will that lessen?
Sure. Yeah. But part of it is just you got to reconnect the wires by rewiring it to realize you do. That's why I just showed you how you can rewire it. You do have those experiences with the proper feasts. You're just still thinking about the one that you don't have anymore that felt so good. But then wait. Abba showed me that there is stuff that I do get to have that is proper. You know, I get to have that 5 feasts a year. Okay?
Yeah. Right.
And so why would I not focus on that now that I had the phony, now here's the real.
Makes
okay?
sense.
So instead of thinking, well, I want that. Well, wait a minute, I got that. I just got it even more and more often.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
It's a rewiring, that's all. Or reconnecting, things. All right, Deirdre and Alice and Freddie.
The gang's all here. I don't know if this helps anybody or what, but show off. What Kathy said about how her employer wanted her to help the lady she's watching with Christmas, it reminded me of when Naaman was healed by Elisha, and he said, I reject the gods of my country. I'm going to serve Yahweh the rest of my life. But I ask Yahweh's pardon when I go into the temple because I'm helping my king. And my king still worshiped these pagan gods, and he counts... No. Thank you. He counts on me to help him kneel down. Is that the same thing, or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
Pretty much.
so
Look, I guess, I would say that the most helpful thing to do is not try in this particularly complicated thing to make a one-size-fits-all. Why don't we just get counsel when these things come up, and then let's make sure we're clear on what's going on and how you should handle it. The best thing would be to get counsel.
Is it okay that I did bring it up? Because
Yeah, no, it's good that you brought it up. And there are some things in Scripture that make you go, okay, how am I supposed to apply that? And it would apply here in a very similar way. But I'm just saying is I would recommend always just get counsel just to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And Kathy's back.
I know. I just had one little addendum. And Deirdre and other people, what happened today was took her to bingo and was real excited because we had a retired rabbi who was going to do a little Hanukkah, some little light of balance. Of course, he was a retired rabbi, so probably not with Yeshua, but I was so excited. And of course, she said, no, I don't want to go. And I'm like, that whole rage came up.
Now, did she not want to go just in general because she knew there was the rabbi doing it?
No, because she was
just not wanting to do it.
She's tired.
Right.
She's really tired.
Right, but you had
I'm
wanted to go, so your rage was because it was something you wanted.
So it was no longer about her, and I wanted some relief from Xmas land.
Right.
And then I got all the rage, like I made you a gluten-free cake, and now you want, maybe people. And so what do you do? And then the father got hold of me and said, wait a minute, you have Hanukkah with your family here at MTOI Beth Shalom, but I thought, well, maybe we're going to sing the song or something. It was going to be a relief for me. So it all became about me and what I wanted.
Right.
And my job was to be whatever she wanted. And the hospice nurse told me today, don't make her do anything, even though my job is to get her out. Don't make her do anything that she doesn't want to do.
All right.
So, anyway,
right.
I just want to share. Thank you.
Okay, very important distinction that you made, which is you have to be really careful that you don't emotionally sort of melt down when you forget that something is not about you. Okay, when you make something about you that shouldn't be and isn't. This happens in marriages, this happens in all relationships, it happens on jobs, like you just experienced. If you start to make something about you that isn't, then you're definitely going to have an emotional challenge at that moment. All right, Shamish Rob, you got some on the internet? I was going to keep this really short, so who knew?
Just one. Anna Kaufman, Rabbi, you mentioned about loving yourself. What does, quote unquote, self-love look like? I know sometimes it can be pursued in a wrong way and can come out as looking narcissistic.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, easy for me.
Spoken like a true narcissist. Okay, so I'm kidding. All right, look, self-love. So what do we normally want in a healthy way? Okay, because she's talking about, well, how do you know that it doesn't get into an unhealthy way? What are you looking for when it comes to love? I'm looking to be treated with respect. I'm looking to be cared about. I'm looking to be honored in some ways. I'm looking to have someone treat me maybe gentle. Think of the fruit of the Spirit, right? I want someone to be kind. I want people, this is how I would be expressing love. See, when you're not all of that, you're not loving yourself. So it's not about self-love, meaning self-love doesn't mean it's all about me. Self-love means I accept me. I'm patient with me. I'm kind to me. I'm gentle with me. I care about me. Okay? So when you talk about self-love, what does it look like? That's what it looks like, okay? It's when people, it's not love, by the way, when we make it about us. That's not love. That's ego and pride and maybe even narcissism, okay? Where everything has to be about me. That's someone who doesn't have a healthy understanding of love, all right? But how you understand what love should look like. Now, most people don't even know what love looks like. I've had a bunch of people, and I'm really moved by this, tell me that through my relationship with them, they now know what love looks like. And that's sad, but very profound. But I mean, it's sad that it had to wait until this point in their life, but it's really profound that I got the opportunity to do that. But that's where someone's going to care enough to be strong with you when needed, gentle when you needed, but always, the thing is this, looking out for your best interest. A narcissist isn't doing that. A narcissist wants everything to be about them. But when you don't even look out for your own best interests, and you don't take care of yourself, and you don't protect yourself. See, part of the way people feel love from me is I make them safe. They feel safe, protected, provided for. If you don't feel safe, provided for by yourself, if you're not taking care of yourself and you put yourself in all kinds of dangerous situations and don't take care of yourself, that's not love. So really, use the definition that you would normally think of how you would want to express love to someone else. A narcissist isn't thinking about expressing love to anybody, okay? They want it to be all about them. And so I think you can use most of the aspects of the fruit. Okay, if you love yourself, you're going to treat yourself with love and joy and peace and patience, etc. But mostly you have to focus on the things like the patience, the gentleness, the kindness, self-control, okay? Which also means to be strong at times with yourself, the discipline. Father loves those, right? He disciplines. But if you never discipline yourself, nobody's disciplining the narcissist. The narcissist is not going to say no to himself about anything, okay? And gets real mad if you tell him no. And so this shouldn't be that complicated a question, although, Anna, other people have asked it, so it's a common enough question. Because people have been lied to and made afraid of loving themselves because, oh, that's going to make you some selfish narcissist. Well, please don't become one of those. But loving yourself, be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Believe in yourself. You know, some of you are just starving for love in the form of somebody believing in you. Saying, I believe you. You can do this. See, if you're always telling yourself you can't do it, then you're not loving yourself. You're no good. You can't do anything. You never amount to nothing. You're just a loser. That's not love. Okay? I'm not saying lie to yourself. Say, hey, we've struggled. Like if I'm having a conversation with myself, I say, okay, we've struggled, but we're going to get this done. We're going to figure it out. We're going to win. We're going to have a victory. We're going to get this accomplished. We're going to get this done. Instead of going, what's the point? I never account. It's not worth it. It doesn't matter. I fail all the time anyway, so why even try? That's when you're not loving yourself. Okay? So let's be about, the idea of understanding you have to start by loving yourself. How can you love anybody if you don't love yourself? Okay? Because other people want love and you don't want to give it to them because you think they're being selfish. Oh, you just want everything about you. No, maybe they just want someone to care about them, to hear them, to validate them, to let them know they have value. All right? That's love. Okay? Being there. Okay? A lot of people are really surprised when the person that they never had to when I'm there for them, when I show up, You got to be the person that shows up no matter what. Interestingly, at my wedding, not my vow renewal, but the wedding 25 years ago, my brother, when he was giving his little toast to me. He said, because you know how they always toast and they say little stuff you don't know about people. He goes, my brother's the guy that you would call at 2 in the morning when your car broke down in the middle of the worst whatever, and he'll show up. That's who I always was, right? Like no hesitation. You knew you could call me, I'd show up. Because that's love, okay? But do you show up for yourself? Are you there for yourself? Or you figure, what's the point? Then you don't love yourself. Okay? Good question, Anna. All right. Is that it? All right. All right, so that's going to cover it for tonight. Rosh Chodesh Sameach. All right, so as we go to close, I want to say this. Everything I just gave you is only information if you don't receive it and do something with it. Okay? Please don't let it just be information. That would be very unfortunate and sad. There was very powerful stuff given to you tonight that could literally change your life. I appreciate people like Rocky getting up and talking about how much their life has changed because they have taken the information, received it, and done something with it, okay? And so, please, I encourage you, I implore you, don't let this just be information. Make it something that you embrace and find a way to incorporate in your life, and you will be changed. Amen? Amen. All right. I'm going to come out here. If you guys all want to stand up, and if you want to come on this side, we'll get you on camera. We're going to wish everybody out there a Rosh Chodesh Sameach. While I choke Constantine, while looking like I'm hugging him. Here we go. All right. Okay, if you look at the screen, if you don't see yourself, that means that you're not on camera. There you go. All right. So we want to wish everybody out there a Rosh Chodesh Sameach, and we're going to tell them that we hope they have a good week. We'll say Shavua Tov, and we're going to tell them that we love them. On 3. 1, 2, 3.